Milk inside a bag of milk is one of the best depictions of mental illness in all of gaming. It followed a simple and effective premise: help a young woman buy milk. The contrast between the simplicity of the task and the difficulty experienced by her expertly conveyed the everyday struggles of mentally ill and neurodivergent people. Milk Outside a Bag of Milk is the game's sequel, and when you boil it down, also follows a relatively simple premise: help the same young woman fall asleep. However, like with the first game, the task proves to be deceptively easy, and through our journey to sleep, the game expands upon Milk Inside a Bag in every way possible. We go deep within the mind of our main character, explore their deepest fears and insecurities, learn their traumatic memories, and attempt to grapple with the terrifying realities of life. As promised in my video on the first game, this video is gonna be a long one, and keep in mind as well, the topics covered in this video can be heavy, so a content warning for disturbing imagery and explorations of mental illness and neurodivergence. Milk Outside a Bag of Milk reminds us of the events of the first game with some beautifully animated cutscenes. Walking to the store, counting steps, finding the milk, facing the cashier, walking home, and finally, entering the apartment and talking to Mom. Milk Outside a Bag of Milk then picks up right where we left off, after Mom tells her to go to bed. She walks to her room trying not to look around. Shadows dance around her, one of which touches her face as it goes past, but she pays them no mind. She walks past the kitchen on the way to her room. The door is shut, but she feels chilling air from beyond it. Her first thought is that there is a living corpse blowing into the keyhole. She tries to reassure herself that there are no corpses in the kitchen. There never were any corpses in the kitchen, so why would there be now? But she can't seem to lose these thoughts, so she breaks out into a run towards the door. She runs, but realizes she won't be able to stop in time. And if she breaks the door, she'll scare the person inside to death, or maybe back to life. Thinking about this only freaks her out more. When she slams into the door, it opens to reveal that there was in fact no living corpse, just the milk she bought earlier. Interestingly, there were no shadows haunting her when she was outside, meaning that they're not a constant presence in her life. There is something within her home that causes these shadows to be here, which implies that however scary it was to venture outside and buy milk, there may be something even scarier about being home. Her intrusive thoughts also run wild. It seems that without the player helping her along, her intrusive thoughts about a corpse being in the kitchen spiral out of control, and she freaks out almost immediately. Perhaps as she no longer has to use all her mental energy to survive the outside world, she starts overthinking everything. And overthink she does. Staring at the milk she bought earlier, it stares back with unblinking eyes. She notes, "What did I expect? Gratitude?" The milk bag probably doesn't care where it is. On the other hand, nobody would drink milk inside the store, which means that I took it from the safest place in the world into the scary unknown. I'm so sorry, you poor thing. She then turns away in shame and leaves the room in a hurry, lamenting how she only brings others trouble. We can see that while she is home, she also seems to have become more sensitive, or perhaps just has more bandwidth to express it. She personifies and feels empathy for an inanimate object, which is not uncommon for mentally ill individuals. Those who are hurting a lot can become hyper-empathetic, not wanting to hurt others as they understand the pain it can cause. Turning away from the milk and walking to her room, a figure appears. It catches her and starts sniffing every part of her body. She doesn't struggle, she knows it's useless. After inspecting her, it pulls out a single sharp claw, thin and sharp like a blade. Again, it asks. She stares questioningly into the monster's bottomless eye sockets. It screams at her, "Don't move." It squeezes her arm until her veins bulge. I've promised so many times. Stay put. A claw pierces her arm. She doesn't feel anything besides some crawling under her skin. But then the claw injects venom into her arm. It hurts. A white veil appears over her eyes, and her arm and her fingers start to twitch. She begins to feel hot. her blood boiling up. Strong shivers run through her body, paralyzing her. Her veins and arteries heat up, almost bursting from the pressure. She tries to scream, but instead of producing words, she vomits thick, milky foam. The creature notices it and throws itself at her in anger, grabbing her by the throat. Kill me, she says. In a fit of madness, the creature starts scratching her neck. Bright splashes fly everywhere, hitting the walls with a loud sound. She tries to imprint where every drop fell in her memory, so she can gather them up all later. A new wave of pain washes over her. Say it. I'll never drink milk again. Say it. I'll never drink milk again. Say it again. She finally screams out, I'll never drink milk again. Already, this game has set a darker tone than the first. We're not outside, where things are scary because they're unknown. We're supposed to be in a place of safety and comfort, but things seem to be even more intense while home than they did outside. The creature she refers to seems to have the face of her mom as shown in the first game, and perhaps this is her full form. We have to wonder why then she refers to it as a creature rather than her mom. It's possible that her perception of her mom morphs based upon what she's doing. In this state, doing this to her, she isn't a mother, but rather a creature, poisoning her. What her mom is doing is never explicitly said, but some have theorized that the main character's physical reactions are similar to those after using an EpiPen. I've never personally experienced it, but according to others online, you don't feel the initial EpiPen jab very much, just like our character didn't. Then, the commonly listed side effects after injection include high blood pressure, dizziness, headache, weakness, and nausea/vomiting. All things that are reflected here. The creature's demands for her to promise not to drink milk also seem to imply that the EpiPen was injected due to her allergic reaction to milk. The fact that she said she's already promised many times means that this is a semi-regular occurrence. I'd wager that the milk is symbolic rather than literal, but more on that later. Finally, we get to her room. She's tired of all the fuss. Thankfully, she feels comfy in her room. Even the weird sounds coming from outside don't bother her. Her mom told her to go to sleep, so she needs to perform all the needed steps. However, her reflection shows absolutely no desire to sleep. She says, "Yeah, I get how you feel." Perhaps a joke, but also potentially signaling that she feels disconnected from her own reflection. She then starts thinking about sleep. There was a time when the last minutes before falling asleep were her favorite time of the day. She loved anticipating the inevitable moment when reality and the dream world would clash. She woke up for that moment's sake, lived through the day for it. Her biggest dream was to sleep all day long, but the dreams slipped away, as if somebody fished them out of her head, one after another, until nothing was left. And now she has to sleep again, even though she doesn't feel any need for it. There is a significance besides just insomnia in her not being able to dream anymore. Dreams on a biological level are the body's way of processing emotions and thoughts. It is basically maintenance on our brain. Symbolically, the lack of dreams could mean that at some point, her world has become fractured enough that her brain no longer is able to properly process things. Next, she looks at her pills. She realizes that she has no idea how they work separately, since she always swallows them as a bunch without thinking. Now she wants to take a better look at them. She'd do anything to stall for a bit more time. First, she examines a smooth red capsule with a semi-transparent film, and wants to see what's inside. She squeezes on it, and to her surprise it is soft, and with another squeeze, it pops open. Sticky bright red liquid pours out. She is disgusted and says it's filthy, throws it away immediately, and washes her hands. She declares, "There's no way I'm drinking that." Next, she examines another pill. She notices that it's the pill that makes her sleepy, but it's not the type of sleep she wants. It's fake. She doesn't even want to look at it. The next half hour goes on where she finds reasons to not take her pills. She invents her own medicine instead, and enjoys swallowing them, letting herself drown in their healing effects. My neck doesn't hurt anymore. My hand doesn't hurt anymore. My heart doesn't hurt anymore. My stomach doesn't hurt anymore. My eyes don't hurt anymore. How come I didn't think of this earlier? It's possible that all this pain she speaks of is from the allergic reaction and the EpiPen earlier. But it is also possible that all of these pains are chronic, which would not be all that surprising given her health. Her disgust towards the drugs is perhaps due to their physical form looking like blood, but could also suggest a deep desire within her to get better. It is often said that pills and medicine, like antidepressants, can make someone feel less depressed, but don't actually solve any of the root causes. She wishes to dream and to experience real sleep, to truly get better and heal from her traumas. Her method of stopping all the drugs cold turkey may not be the ideal method, but I think this is her intention. Next, she wishes she had someone she could tell. This is so simple, I need to brag about it to somebody, but not to my mom, she'll just scold me. Who will talk to me? Here's where you make your return. Her inner voice and helper. Long time no see. You remind her that it hasn't been that long. She tells you that she read the manual. The side effects are the usual headaches, dizziness, exhaustion, basically nothing she can't handle by herself. When you don't respond, she seems worried, asking if you're happy even in the slightest bit to see her and hear about her accomplishment. If you tell her that you're exhausted, and she probably is too, she says that that's not true. You insist and tell her to go to bed. She says no, saying that you've been in control for too long. Your rebuttal is that you'll just stay quiet. This upsets her, and she says you can't do that, that you need to make her feel better. But then, almost as quickly, she realizes that she doesn't need you. She feels so energetic and great, which means she can do anything, and you can only agonize over your uselessness. If you ask her what made her so happy all of a sudden, she responds, "Why would she be sad?" You try to bring her down. Remember yourself a couple of hours ago. She pretends not to remember. She doesn't know what you mean. 3 options are presented, all saying, "Stop lying." She continues to pretend not to understand. You become meaner. Whatever. Unlike you, I won't forget that pathetic, snotty girl for a long time. She just whines and whines all the time. She complains, "Don't even try ruining my mood. I just want to have fun while we're together, alright?" It's not too long before she folds. Am I really that pathetic? You stay quiet. Say something. She feels tears streaming down her cheeks, hanging from her chin, and then falling on her clothes, burning holes in them. You act smug. That was fast, but not unexpected. She just says, "Hey, at least I tried." You command her, "Go wash your face, and then we'll decide what to do with you." At first, I was confused by this conversation. Why would her inner voice be so mean to her, especially after helping her to buy milk? One explanation is that this is just tough love, that she was going manic, making a mistake by not taking all her medicine, and you need to step in and remind her of her reality. Another possibility is that because she didn't take her medicine, you act as her more true inner voice, mean and self-abusing. Mentally ill individuals are often meaner to themselves than others are to them. Next, she's in front of a mirror again. She stares at her reflection, trying not to get distracted by the sneery looks the walls are giving her, trying not to drown in their giggling. But her reflection also shows a creepy smile, bares her teeth. She's shut her eyes, but that doesn't help. It wouldn't have helped even if she sank through the floor. Now, due to her inner voice putting her down, she's ashamed, embarrassed, enough to feel like the walls are laughing at her. Then she starts counting. 2 squared, 2 by 2 squared, a square pyramid squared. She feels better now. We already knew from the first game that she quite liked math and the pyramidal construction of sentences. Here, we see it being used as self-soothing. In fact, her design is also partly math-themed as well, with the symbol on her shirt being the empty set. Quick math lesson here, sets are just collections of things. They can be filled with numbers or objects or anything. The empty set is a set with nothing in it, a void. I'll talk more about her relationship with the void later when we get into the dreams. You ask her how she's doing. She'll remark that you're mocking her. You tell her that you're worried. She says, I know. I've been acting weird, haven't I? Don't know why, but I thought I could take control. I was almost ready to. I was sure I'd be able to change something. After all, I was able to buy milk, you know. Yeah, you ought to know how challenging it was. You question. Is that why you threw out the medicine? She admits defeat. I felt like I'd be able to fight it on my own. It's true that the pain subsided for a little bit at that time, but now I feel it triple in force. It hurts so bad. You tell her to take her medicine. She does so, trying not to imagine it, but she still can't stop visions of the red liquid, congealed blood in transparent coating, traveling down her throat. She doesn't want to think about something so repulsive. You continue the reality check. You still haven't changed. You're afraid of being alone. This worries you much more than the pain. I think this experience is pretty universal in some ways. We all have at some point thought we were ready for something, only to land on our face. Especially with something like tackling mental issues, there can be a whole world of pain waiting for us if we try to work through it. Some would say that it is for the better, but it is clear why we often end up retreating from it. It is easy to live in denial. The pain of facing the truth can be akin to withdrawal effects from drugs. As she was in the first game, she's quite smart. She is very self-aware, just not ready to take on everything tonight, at least not alone. Cut to us lying on the floor. She looks up at the ceiling and thinks about how the concrete blocks that are surely cracking and will fall on her head. But she's not afraid of that. She can't imagine her death coming from above. Rather, rearing its claws from somewhere below, waiting for her to lose focus. Do you want to talk about it? No, I've had enough of talking. You can say something about the ceiling not collapsing today, but she silences you, telling you she needs to organize her thoughts. She carefully takes the thoughts that are yet to be fully formed and lays them out on the ceiling in orderly rows. She tries to arrange them, to no avail. You suggest to her to try to imagine them as something small, like cockroaches. She decides to make them fireflies instead. They start flying above her. Try as she might, it doesn't help either. After some time, she gets up and screams with frustration. The fireflies scatter. Your meanness continues. Good job. Now start over. Unstable behavior makes you look bad. She replies, I don't give a damn. A back and forth later, she remarks about you. She realized what you're doing. I've changed my mind. Please don't stay silent for this long anymore. I'm having a hard time without your help. It seems that her inner voice's tough love has made her realize that she needs help. All the fireflies seem to be hiding somewhere. We need to find them. You can tell her to forget about them, but she says that you don't get it. If she's thinking about something, she needs to finish her thoughts. Or else. A deafening sound rings out. It's midnight. It's so late, but we can't go to bed now. She turns to you for aid. Will you help me? Here, you ask her a critical question, one that will affect the course of the rest of the night. What were you thinking about when you were on the floor? She says, what do you mean? You should know better than anyone else. Here is your pivotal choice. If in response to her question you respond, that's the thing. I have no idea. This is weird. Will you tell me? Suddenly, hands are around her neck. You can tell that they're not her hands based on the position of the fingers. Someone is strangling her. Everything becomes red. She rolls her sleeves up and starts rubbing her eyes intensely. They are so itchy. You ask her, why are you crying? My eyes are itchy. Next, it's either, did you drink milk? Or did he bring milk? She doesn't respond. Instead, focuses on the itchiness. I wonder if I tear out all my eyelashes one after another, will my eyes stop itching? She repeats it. You scream at her now. What have you done? She continues talking to herself. I need to have a bath. You suggest to her, here, drink some milk. She screams, and a bunch of images flash. She stands in the middle of the room, mouth agape, gasping for air. She thinks she just experienced death. She doesn't know any other way to explain what happened. But it doesn't matter. It's time to start the search for fireflies. This is often referred to as the first death or the strangulation death. I would guess that it is a memory, or a nightmare about a memory. Perhaps this is what happened right before her mother injected the EpiPen, with her showing signs of undergoing an allergic reaction. But I think it likely goes further back than that, with the option to ask if he brought the milk being the clue, perhaps alluding to a time far in the past, when she was much younger, and he was referring to her father. The strangling could be a metaphor for her throat swelling up during the allergic reaction, or could be abuse suffered at the hands of her mother. The idea that this is a death could allude to the fact that in this incident, she came a lot closer to dying than she did today, or the fact that this event was very traumatic, the memory being painful enough to evoke a feeling of dying. Starting the search for the Fireflies, you tell her, "To be honest, I don't know where to look. I guess we'll have to tear the whole place apart." This freaks her out. No, and no. If I make even the smallest of messes, I'll feel really bad. All things should stay in their places, and that's it. You can question her why, but she won't tell you right now. Beginning the search for her Fireflies, there are many places to look. I'm going to focus on the most important one first. In the center of the room lies a laptop. When you inspect it, she notes that she hasn't touched it in years, so it's covered in a thick layer of dust. A bizarre item. She fears it. Why? She doesn't remember how it appeared in her room. One of her parents probably brought it here because they couldn't find a better place for it. They encouraged her to use it. She spent days in front of the computer, games, drawing, engineering calculator, 3D modeling. You remark that she had amusing hobbies. She responds, "Yeah, I did," before entering the web. Imagine this. You're a hamster that lives underground. You have everything for comfortable living. Did you imagine? You confirm. And then she repeats, "Okay, so you're a hamster." Then again, "Wonderful. Here's the situation. You're a hamster." Finally, you get what she's doing. "Okay, I got it. Do you want to talk about something else?" "Yeah." Here lies the second pivotal choice for the night. Either stay silent or tell her you'll end up returning to that subject later anyways. If you choose to press her, she continues the story. One wonderful day, someone digs you up from your hamster house and brings you to the pet store. Now your new home is a cage. It's way more comfortable and warm than the underground, and the most important part, you have a lot of neighbors here. Their cages are identical to yours, and the other hamsters are identical to you too. That means you're all the same, apart from the fact that they were all born at the shop. You'll ask, what does that indicate? Nothing at all. Then she forgets what she was talking about. You tell her to start over, this time without the stupid hamster analogies. I had a lot of friends online, tens, hundreds of them, impossible to count. It is possible though, I had exactly 317 of them, although I guess nobody counts the exact number of hamsters when they walk into a pet shop. From those friends, 68 were into gaming, 130 liked drawing, and the remaining 199 were into calculators and 3D modeling equally. And when I say equally, I don't mean 59.5 friends on each side. You can split numbers evenly, no problem, but math doesn't work like that when it comes to friends. A major conundrum, right? I knew, of course, no real people exist on the web. I also understand that all my friends die the moment I turn off my laptop. But still, I wasn't even a bit worried. Do you know what computer programs consist of? It's just a combination of numbers, which means my friends are also just numbers. Isn't that amusing? You ask her, why do you call them your friends? She responds, I mean, everyone who shares my interest is my friend, and I don't care whether they know about my existence or not. Anyways, every program has its own algorithm and purpose, its mathematical formula, and if you solve that formula, you'll be able to predict the program's behavior at any moment. A web person is just a random picture and a random string of letters. Words and actions from the web are just executable code. You stop her. Hey, let me know if you need a break. She pauses and looks uncomfortable, but then continues. One day, someone appeared. From that point on, my laptop was always on. There were no real people on the web, but he was good at pretending. At some moment, I let him trick me. But before she can finish her story, you notice something. Hey, look! Suddenly, a firefly crawls out of the laptop's vent. It starts blinking. You suggest it might be trying to say something. She says she can see that, if only she knew what. You suggest it might be a cipher she could crack, but she immediately changes her mind. She has absolutely no desire to find out what it wants to say. Then the firefly stops, restarts its light, and flies into her ear. Afterwards, she says to continue searching. You ask about finishing her story. She says if you do everything right, she will continue it. How will she remember? She'll come up with a code word. Then we go back to searching, and it's not until the end of the search that we can finish the story. For the sake of analyzing the story, I will skip ahead to it. Don't worry, I will return to the other things in her room. When you finish searching, she says that she's managed to gather her thoughts, but something still worries her. On the other hand, she wasn't supposed to be happy anyways. Why not? If I lose something and then find it, it's just going back to the starting point. No changes at all. A zero sum. And happiness is all about being positive, right? In my opinion, this is of course wrong. Happiness isn't tied to your standing in life. It's about the process rather than the destination. People fall behind in life all the time, and just getting back to where you were should be something to be proud of. But that's besides the point. You have a suggestion for her to feel better. How about you go get some fresh air before sleeping? Go to the balcony and get some fresh air. Somehow, those words triggered a panic attack in her. She subconsciously steps away from the balcony. She tells you, I don't think that's a good idea. This might sound silly, but I feel like someone is watching me. Here's the second part to the second crossroad. Like with the first death, pressing her to continue on with the story will allow you to learn more about her, but will come at a cost. If you press her, she heads outside. There, she reflects upon her apartment building, how she could once see the horizon, but at some point it circled in on her. Then you ask her how she feels. She says she definitely feels. Sometimes that's more than enough. She's completely terrified, looking in every direction but up. Panning up, it's the black hole she made reference to in the first game. Then she climbs up onto the metal railing and lets her legs hang down. She sneaks short glances at the abyss from time to time. It replies with angry, cold breath. That's how they interact, like old friends. As she hangs off the metal railing, she opens up to you. Sometimes I feel the whole world pretends to be crazy, as if it's trying to make me believe in something that doesn't exist. That's weird, isn't it? Yes, but at the same time, it makes me a little happy. Everything around me was created for my sake, to trick, deceive, confuse me. If that's true, I'm not so crazy myself after all. You tell her that believing in this is the definition of craziness. She admits, you're probably right. I still haven't come up with a code word. You were the one to remember, you don't need a code word anymore. She says, I don't like when this happens. I want to remember certain things only when I want to. I'll keep my promise, but you need to keep in mind, from this moment on, every word will bring me pain. She then bends down and imagines falling into the abyss. She has exactly 2 minutes before she meets her end. During those 2 minutes of falling, she finishes the story about that boy who tricked her into thinking he was real. I had a friend online, my best friend, even though his combination of letters wasn't that cool, and the combination of pixels he had as his photo were also boring and unattractive. This is so strange and wrong, breaking the rules of being online. Why was he doing that? Maybe his code was a few lines short? I could tell you about those rules, you won't find them anywhere, but I'm so smart I figured them out myself. Although, I'm not sure if I should divulge them. When I try to say what I think out loud, I tend to make mistakes, and if I make just a single one, everything that comes after just contradicts my thoughts, and I end up with the opposite position, and I don't want that. You tell her, according to your logic, it'd be better for you to keep your mouth shut forever. She responds, yeah, that's my dream. Keep my mouth shut. Never get up from bed, never see or hear anything, just dream on and on. Oh, why is everything so terrible? She continues on. He was brazen enough to... He somehow made me believe he was real. He kept describing someone else's life to me in detail, as if it was him, and he expected me to do the same. And then I told him everything about myself, without hiding a single thing. She grits her teeth and feels the wind slice her. He knew more about me than anyone else did in the world. You know what he did? Sending an army of bots to harass me was probably fun. And what's most important, it was a win-win situation. They spawn here and there, simple bits of code that are effortless to run. No wonder the algorithm assigns that pattern more often than others from the list. My name surfaces on the web more and more. It's unbearable. Unbearable. From around every corner, every balcony, ceiling, attic, wall, I always feel many pairs of watchful eyes directed at me. And now they watch me from the screens too. But I'll put an end to it. I've decided a long time ago. Though maybe I decided that only. My body finally crashes into the ground, smashing into millions of tiny pieces, like porcelain. It's my second death for today already. I'm cold, let's go back inside. Without a second thought, she goes towards her laptop and yanks the power cable from the outlet. This is the full story of her online experience. For someone who has already suffered quite a bit in life, losing her father and growing up in a not-so-safe environment, something like this was probably the nail in the coffin for her. This may have been the turning point, if not the sole source of her paranoia, in feeling like everyone is out to get her. She hides behind the idea that internet people aren't real, a cognitive dissonance that protects her from the harsh reality that she really did open up to someone, and they hurt her. This is her second potential death for the night. But she does something meaningful with this death. She pulls the plug on her computer, assuring that it will not power up again in the near future. These memories are painful, but perhaps need to be faced so that she can move on. This is only the first Firefly. There are 4 more Fireflies that can be found. Each one represents a strong memory or thought, one that needs to be collected and processed. At the end of the night, she will finally dream with these collected thoughts. A combination of the 2 deaths and the number of Fireflies will determine which dream she has, but all in some way are her processing and working through her past. One could say that in order to be reborn, one must first die, and perhaps this is what is being done here with these deaths. In experiencing these deaths, she is opening herself up to begin reconstructing things. Now to cover the rest of the items in her room. If instead of pressing her about the laptop, you allow her to avoid telling the story, the Firefly crawls out all the same, but you won't experience the second death. Starting with the leftmost item now, there's a bunch of cartons of milk, but nothing happens when you hover over them. They glitch out as if they don't exist, which only adds to the mystery of the milk and its significance. Inside the waste bin, there's no Firefly. After all, no self-respecting Firefly would hide in a trash can. On the countertop are all of her pills and medicines. Looking at the mounds of medicine makes her feel dizzy. You ask her what's wrong. She says, "I almost skipped my dosage for today. How reckless, I could have died." You reassure her that it's been fixed. Then, a Firefly comes out from one of the bottles. It crawls to her ear, and her mind becomes a bit clearer. Looking at some vines, you realize that the vines are dead. Why not throw them out? She seems disappointed in you for asking such a question. Weren't you listening to me at all? On the wall are some notebook pages with numbers on them, dosage and side effects for her medicine. Looking a little closer, you notice that it's not her handwriting. She says, "Of course not. Shaky, broken lines, ugly numbers. It's not writing, it's more like claw marks." You tell her, "Don't forget to thank your mom." She retorts, "I don't need your advice." Then a Firefly comes out from underneath the papers. It gets up in a business-like manner, then starts a business-like flight, and enters her business-like ear. Here we get pretty strong confirmation, with her mother's handwriting being described as claw-like, that the monster from before was in fact her mother. But here I think we also get to see a nicer side of her mom. Her mom, however flawed, does seem to care for her daughter, at least enough to write dosage for her on paper. In another story, we get confirmation that our character here is around college-aged, and probably doesn't need someone to write out dosage for them. It feels reminiscent of a mom writing out instructions for a kid, which in some way could be demeaning, but also caring. Or perhaps due to ADHD or some other condition, she genuinely does struggle with keeping track of things like dosage, which I think it is nice that her mom supports her at least in that way. Continuing the search, underneath the laptop is a storage drawer, but there's no way the Fireflies are in there since all the compartments are locked. Then, on a stool is her sketchbook. Half of the pages are blank, which means that it'll still be good for a couple of years. You question her. You draw that rarely? Why? She responds, isn't that obvious? If I run out of pages, I'll have to buy a new one. I can't get to the stationery store on foot. I'll have to take the bus. Do you even realize the kind of nightmare that can turn into? You can suggest to her to just ask her mom to buy one. She says what? Ask whom? Can you even form coherent sentences? Obviously trying to shut down the idea. You can insist, but she'll just do more math. You tell her that she's a tough case. She responds that you lack empathy. Is that her fault? She approaches her sketchbook and studies the stool it is on. The previous drawing is buried on the previous page, as it should be. Once again, I think this is another indication that maybe there's more to her relationship with her mom than we think. She doesn't shut down the idea because of some reason like, my mom won't do it. It feels to me more like she doesn't want to burden her mom. It's possible that she feels a deep sense of guilt needing to be cared for as she does. Then, a gust of wind comes into the room. She starts to freak out. She starts hearing the pages turn. The wind is still blowing, but she doesn't hear the pages anymore, which means that we're on the first page. She calculates if I wait a little longer, the wind will close it. Then I won't have to look. You try to convince her just to open her eyes. She refuses. Back and forth, you try to calm her down. When she opens her eyes, the page is still in the same place it was in the beginning. No drawings. The pages start rustling again. She can almost see the drawings on the previous pages. She tries to close her eyes when the pages start to glow. A firefly comes out from the pages. The wind stops, and for a moment, there is silence in her mind. Only for a moment, though. The firefly then goes into her head like the others. A lot of time when people go through traumatic events, they create vent art, which is a very raw form of emotion you put onto a piece of paper. It's possible that she doesn't want you to see her previous pages because they were made during a time when things were bad, and she doesn't want to be reminded of them. The last fly is in the backpack. She describes her school bag as worn down and silly, almost screaming of its uselessness. You ask her what's inside the bag. Nothing special, she says. You ask her if she used to go to school. She says yeah, had a blast all the way. You ask her if she really understood the question, meaning, why did you stop? She responds, do you think everything in my life should be doom and gloom? The rooms were really bright, not like at home. The beds were soft, the food was nice. By the way, I attended all the classes. The others always skipped. She smiles, absorbed in warm memories. You remind her of your point. You never graduated though. Do you remember your last day there? She tells you this story. It was a normal day. Dad picked me up earlier than usual. He told me that I'm already too old for the school curriculum. Then we got into the car and went home. Mom greeted us, we had dinner, and then we went to our separate rooms. Whatever, I don't care. She then almost ends up kicking the bag in a fit of sudden anger, but manages to stop it in the nick of time. She says, if I move it even an inch, the whole picture will collapse and I'll go blind. It has almost happened countless times. What do you mean you'll go blind? She says, I've spent months memorizing the location of every item in the room. That's why I can see them so clearly and vividly. You won't get it. Then, at her feet, a firefly begins to crawl up her leg. It's barely glowing, and can't even fly. This firefly must be really tired. She picks it up, it starts glowing, and flies into her ear. She says this one is kinda sad. There's definitely more to this story than she lets on. We do get confirmation that the reason she doesn't want anything to be moved is that she memorizes the location of items in the room so she can see them vividly in her mind. I know that the real reason is just art, but if we were to give an in-game explanation, I would say that this is why the first game is so much hazier than the second. She hasn't memorized the outside, so it appears in far less quality than the inside of her home. As far as the story goes, she does give a few more details later. Searching a few more items, the umbrella doesn't have any fireflies, neither does the bed. Inside the AC unit are cockroaches. And finally, furthest to the right is a phone, which is not important except for in Dream 5, which I will get to later. Finally, we end the search. If you collect all the fireflies, she says it's amazing, but things still worry her just like before. That whole zero-sum thing. Here we can avoid the second death by telling her it's okay not to go outside. Now is the time for sleep. Before doing so, she opens up for one last time, hoping tomorrow will come only after a year or a decade, imagining myself to be outside of my mortal shell, but at the same time still being me. Ridiculous, like milk outside a bag of milk. And yet, you don't have to talk out loud for me to understand that you're worried about me. I know that already. I also know that our time is running short. You won't take another pill? Of course not. I won't take it tomorrow either, and the day after tomorrow, and never ever. That's a goodbye then? No. I still have one more small favor to ask, a really small one. What is it? I've blurted out way too much today, a lot of stuff I'd want to forget forever. I don't blame you, but was it really necessary? You'll see tomorrow. No, I wouldn't be able to sleep like this. Fine. What's the favor? She can't seem to get the words out. She's scared to tell you, scared that something bad might happen, and scared that when something bad happens, something way worse will happen. She lies down in bed. She says that she's sad because the dreams just won't come anymore. You won't believe me if I tell you how I dealt with it at first. Of course I will. I know, it was a joke. Well, anyways, I washed my face, brushed my teeth, lied down, and started imagining that I'm watching a dream. I didn't sleep at all, of course, and always look sleepy in the morning. After a week of insomnia, I started feeling weird and seeing things. Letters floating in the air, strange silhouettes that appeared in the most unexpected places, bulging eyes with trembling pale pupils. It was scary, you know. Then one day, I almost died. I just collapsed in the middle of the room and couldn't move for a while. And then silhouettes, letters, and eyes were hanging over me and hissing. It was horrible. And, well, deserved, I guess? It felt like I was caught in the biggest lie in the world. Yes, it felt exactly like that. After that, I stopped. But the silhouettes, letters, and eyes stayed here. I guess they liked this place. This incident she speaks of where she collapses, it may be related to her story about school. It's possible that when she was unable to sleep, the exhaustion caused her to collapse in the classroom. Worried about her health, her parents pulled her out of school, only for her to never get well enough to return. You suggest to her to use her hands instead of talking. Now she motions with her hands. You manage to understand her. You want me to tell you a bedtime story? Shh! And I was trying so hard here, don't you get it? Relax, no one can hear you. So what do you say? I'd be happy to, but I don't know how to tell them. Oh, it's incredibly easy. Just talk about something without stopping. How silly and pointless. You don't know anything. I know just enough to realize that we'll just end up wasting time. Let's focus on something that actually matters. Boring. Fine. At last, she closes her eyes and enters the dream world she so desires. Our choices up to now determine which of 5 dreams she experiences. The first dream is achieved when you experience both the first and second death. Of course, what order you get the dreams in depends on how you played, so don't pay any attention to the number. She wakes up on a familiar road. Hearing a voice from the side, she turns around to see a boy with a weird expression on his face. You're late. Who are you? The boy blinks in bewilderment. We're not going anywhere like this. Try again. He then takes a deep breath. You are late. She stares at him confused. He stares back. She tries apologizing. Sorry? The boy nods, satisfied. See? Much better. Do you have a name? My name's Treska. She gives the boy a questioning look. Eventually, he says that she's obligated to escort him to the store. She tries to tell him to just go on without her. He says that he'd be happy to, but he doesn't know the way. She confronts him. "I'll be honest with you, I don't like you." He simply bursts out laughing in reply and says, "I do like you though." Then he grabs her hand and heads out. She comments about the journey. "Our trip to the store went fine, if not for the fact that Tresca was walking way faster than me. And on the other hand, at times he stopped abruptly and went backwards, studying the ground beneath his feet. In the end, the trip took a lot longer than it should." Here it becomes clear that this dream, or perhaps nightmare, is a recreation of the first game. She has experienced what we got to experience with helping her go to the store. He mirrors her behaviors, from the strange way of thinking to the methodical counting of steps. After reaching the store's doors, they are greeted by a sign, "Closing in 20 minutes. They hurry inside. They walk around the store and realize that they're lost. She proposes asking somebody for directions. He immediately runs off to ask somebody, a stranger. When she meets up with him again, the stranger asks her, "Is he yours?" He speaks with disgust, while wearing a scornful expression. "If he's yours, please get him away from me." She grabs his hand and apologizes before leading him away. All the while, Tresca is still looking at the customer, shaking. When they turn the corner, he calms down. You ask him, "What was that?" He responds, "I was scared." You ask for clarification. "What?" Then he screams, "No, not again," and continues screaming afterwards. She covers his mouth. His face is burning. He is crying. This is a parallel to the O conversation, with her coming in after the boy has been locked in a loop with the customer. Her saying what made him scared that he was trapped in another loop of "oh, what, oh." She yells at him a bit. "Can you act normal?" He tries to say, You don't understand." She continues, "Of course I don't. I don't understand anything." You try to tell him he shouldn't annoy other people. In reaction to your meanness, he runs away. She finds him at the counter. She squeezes through a long line that is formed after Tresca. "What happened?" He doesn't say anything. He just looks at his feet and sniffs. There's a bag of milk lying in between them. The cashier turns to her. "Is he yours?" "Just leave him home next time." People in the queue nod in agreement. "Pay for the goods, please." "Yes, of course." "And the waiting fee?" "What?" "You heard me." "I did, but that's unheard of." Tresca starts giggling. "And for the fact that your son is special too." In a fit of rage, she throws a banknote to the cashier, of much higher value than needed even counting all the fees. She grabs Tresca and exits the store. They spend the whole trip back in silence. At some point they end up turning right towards a gas station. There, Tresca finally breaks his silence. "Do you like ice cream?" "No." "Okay." A light flickers in his eyes and then goes out. "You know?" He turns away from the path and walks straight towards the highway with determination. She stares at his back, confused. He then tells her, "It seems like you're not helping me at all." A new light flickers in his eyes. She wakes up from her dream and starts crying, overwhelmed from it all. We've established that this dream sequence mirrors the first game, but something that is different from the first game is the type of interactions that go on. In the first game, she stumbles a bit when speaking, but ultimately it doesn't seem that anyone is mad at her. In contrast, people in this dream seem annoyed and bothered by Tresca's presence. They don't accommodate him at all, even punishing her for bringing him. I see two possible explanations for the significance of this dream. One being that this dream is meant to show her the truth of how she acts and the world perceives her, that she must confront the fact that the world is horrible and not accommodating towards her at all, and has isolated her, just as it did for Tresca. By allowing her to see it through the eyes of a spectator, she confronts its injustice. Another interpretation is that Tresca is meant to literally be her, and she plays the role of her mother. Perhaps this event really did happen, once when she was much younger and had to live through the experience. This dream could then be a way to confront that past. The ending, "You're not helpful at all," could also make reference to the fact that by not working with others and being difficult, she shuts out the people who actually stood up for her, as she did in the store with Tresca. Widening our perspective, this dream is the closest to reality that we get. The other dreams are far more abstract, perhaps alluding to the fact that in order to get this ending, we had to experience both deaths. In confronting the past trauma so directly and experiencing both deaths, we open up for the dream world to more fully process the reality of her situation. Of course, the dreams more than anything are up for interpretation, so I won't try to argue that this is the only way to view them, just my personal interpretation. Now we turn to examine Dream 2. In order to get this ending, you must not experience the first death, but do experience the second death, as well as collecting only 4 out of 5 of the Fireflies. She wakes up lying on the cold floor in the center of a cramped room. There's no furniture, just naked walls and a single door. She can hear muffled sounds coming from the other side of it, scary sounds. She hugs her knees and wraps herself in her sweater like it's a blanket. The room is pretty spacious, but she can't seem to shake the feeling that she's trapped inside of a suffocating casket. And the faint blue glow that sneaks in through the keyhole only adds to that feeling. An inhuman roar comes from the other side of the door. It becomes louder and louder, more and more distinct with every passing second. Something or someone is coming closer. She curls into a ball, trying to take up as little space as possible. Maybe she can become invisible or smaller in some miraculous way. In the meantime, the howl becomes unbearably loud, but only for a moment. Then it sheepishly backed off. She decides to stand up. This opening sequence to the dream reminds me of a couple of things. One idea could be that she is trapped within her own room, and the sounds coming from outside could be her parents outside screaming. The way that she describes curling up into a ball and wanting to become invisible seems like something a child would do when they don't want to be noticed by an angry parent. Another idea I've seen suggested is that since the light coming through the keyhole was blue, this dream could be symbolic of her online experiences, with the door being her escape from being trapped in her room, like a laptop allowing her to access the internet. The fact that we need to experience the second death related to her online experiences furthers this interpretation. Now she hears another strange sound. It's coming from above now. The ceiling moves upwards, squeaking. Small debris falls. She raises her hand, trying to touch the ceiling, but it suddenly starts to rise quicker and instantly disappears into the darkness. The room becomes darker and colder. She figures that she needs to try escaping. Hours pass and she runs from one wall to another, delirious. The walls run away from her, making the spacious room even bigger. The darkness surrounds her, only the door remains. She kept purposefully avoiding it because she could sometimes hear horrifying howls and rustles on the outside. Another thought that I've had is that this dream could reflect her experiences following the incident where she collapsed and was withdrawn from school. Following that incident, she likely didn't have anything to do in her room besides go on her computer. She may have felt trapped by the isolation. She would have had no choice but to go online to escape. With no other choice, she approaches the door. As expected, the door also moves away from her. She keeps walking towards it, not wanting to lose the only source of light. She then tries to lunge at the door, but it moves away from her. She falls to the floor. It hurts. She screams, finally letting out all the despair she bottled up. She doesn't stop screaming because she's scared to end up in complete silence. If the reality around her disappears, her twisted imagination will take over, and the realest thing she has is her voice. "Hey, I can hear you," a voice coming from the other side of the door. "I'm here, come closer." She rushes towards the door, stumbling on the way. She keeps running for a minute, 10 minutes, but the door isn't even an inch closer. She theorizes that she just needs to make one final push. She gathers her strength into a jump that feels like an eternity. She stretched out her hand, almost making contact with it. But she doesn't, and dives face first onto the ground with ridiculous speed. Slides at least 30 more feet like that thanks to inertia, leaving behind a bloody trail, hand still outstretched, trying to grab empty space. Tears stream down her face, making the numerous scratches from before burn. She tries to wipe them, but screams and yanks her hand away the moment she touches her face. Her lips and nose are now a mushy mess. She cries out for help, and silence deafens for an excruciatingly long time. Then the voice speaks out. "Hey, I can see you." She then stands up and continues running. She's running for another hour and she barely scratches the door handle. Her thoughts reflect the desperation she feels. "I'm so scared. Why aren't you doing anything? Why are they doing this to me? Don't they understand how painful this is for me?" Finally, she channels all her rage and jumps. The door opens. The idea that this dream could symbolize her online experiences has some more interesting points here. The voice outside seems to try to guide her, but never help her, leading her on and tricking her, just as that online boy did to her. She tries and tries to run, but never makes much progress on escaping her room, as escaping through the internet never makes much progress. This by far is the most abstract dream out of the 5, so there are many different possible interpretations. Another way of looking at it could be more generally, as the room being metaphorical for her life. She is trapped by her limitations and unable to escape. People try to guide her, but never give her enough help in order for her to actually make it. Now, we see what's behind the door. She's lying face down on the grass. There's wind. She stands up and sees an endless field, a clear sky without a single star, and a pale moon very far away. She tries to get her bearings, but the surroundings are too vast. Suddenly, she's in the grass again. The wind howls. It's clearly upset, but what can she do about it? Then she hears an echo from something far away, a wolf or something else. The echo draws closer and closer, and she realizes that it's not a wolf. She jumps up and turns around in a panic. Where is that sound coming from? Then she hears a sound that appears as a bunch of O's. Maybe somebody wants me to find them? Then she hears a resounding, painful scream. She shuts her eyes and covers her ears. The screams turn into a cry. Somewhere very far away, among the thick grass, there's a silhouette. Just a small black spot. The O's continue. "Are you hurt?" No reply. She walks away disappointed. 100 steps, 200, but the spot hasn't become smaller. A feeling of panic and unexplainable dread grows. She questions. A stone? A tree? Why the hell is this field endless? I don't turn around anymore. I know that it's chasing me. Then she hears it again, the O's. The horrifying voice is coming from right behind her. She turns, but the silhouette is still there, at the same distance as before. The silhouette trembles and then slowly starts moving, followed by new sounds, wheezes, moans. Fear shackles her. She screams out, "You're scaring me, go away." After that, the spot expands rapidly, and in the blink of the eye, most of the sky and the field is consumed by the sticky, cold darkness. She sprints away. Oh. She runs and runs. Oh. Oh. An unknown force turns her head with a crunching sound, and the darkness consumes everything. She wakes up in the cold floor, in the center of a cramped room. Now, her room. She cries just as she does with the other dream, the emotions different but still strong. Her fear of the void is certainly what defined this dream. The letter O haunts her, as it did in the first game. Everything from the room to the outdoor space felt like nothing was there. It was all empty and endless, like the void she fears so much. The creature outside is perhaps taunting her, as the online boy did. In the end, darkness consumes everything. I would guess that the fact that we did not experience both deaths or collect all the Fireflies is also important. Perhaps the dream is hazier and more abstract because there are still thoughts left to be collected, or memories to be worked through before going to bed. Both this dream and the next are quite hazy. Dream 3 comes from experiencing neither death, plus not collecting all the Fireflies. She wakes up and immediately almost loses consciousness from horror. A thin metal stairway snakes around a giant column, disappearing into the darkness. She presses herself onto the cold wall and prays to freeze into it. She feels that she has spent a couple hours or days here, but doesn't know whether she's going up or down. She feels terrified of it all. 1,billion pounds of concrete and 1,000,000 miles of emptiness. It's impossible to stay sane when you're near cosmic numbers like that, looking at them, touching them. It was just a matter of time before my short term here will end. My mind will melt away, and my body will turn to dust. She makes up her mind. I won't take a single step. Why would I? To find out where the stairway abruptly ends? It's all meaningless. My whole body is trembling, but then I realize it's the whole space around me that is trembling. It can't wait to destroy me. Maybe I should gather my will and at least turn my head? That thought doesn't stay in her head for very long. It's torn out with inhuman force. She slowly turns her body with a squeak. She screams out, "No, this is not what I wanted. Don't." Amongst the silence rings a lonely colossus, unmoving. The bridge across the dark abyss cannot be seen. Here it seems the column represents life. Her note about finding where the stairway abruptly ends reflects a fear of death. Why should she make progress, choose up or down, or do anything at all if it will all just end? In this limbo, she meets a colossus, referencing Lovecraftian ideas of a supernatural being. Now, oppressive, thick, sticky air drives itself into her ears, silencing her thoughts with a haphazard string of words. Hundreds of giant concrete structures, just like hers, spread in tiny rows effortlessly in all directions. Stairways wrap around them like vines. There at the end of this world, there's a person smiling. The world still exists, but all that makes it both exists and not. She tries to erect a mind block, but to no avail. Her brain is already at the mercy of the super creature. Her legs start moving on their own. The only thing she can do is choose the direction, up, down, or. The crowd notices blood on Wozniak's hands. He runs away. Mendel appears. He has nothing inhuman about him, apart from his excessive grace and hidden elegance. He walks out to the center of the stage. First act begins. Foreign thoughts become even more incoherent. There's less and less space for her own. The creature begins to ask her questions. Do you feel the connection to your body clearly, or does it still cause confusion and fear? If you've been living through that fear a lot recently, how did it manifest exactly? Answer honestly, don't hide anything. She decides to descend. The voice continues. You can have a sneaking suspicion that something is wrong, because your path has changed. Maybe you started talking in a wrong way, or made some sort of mistake. If so, start getting used to your new life. Try creating imagery that would instill the feeling that everything is as it should be, and with time, it will create a new order inside you. I don't doubt that you're going through some hard times, but you have to make sacrifices. Grow up. Only then you'll be able to attain the meaning of life. Do you get it? Try that if you find it important. Every passing day is a gift. If you share a piece of that gift with the world even once, it'll seem like a speck of dust. Do you get it? No, I'm sorry. I won't get that then. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? Yes, even you get it. When you notice how people look at themselves in the mirror, when you look at your own reflection and realize it exists in reality, do you understand how exactly it exists? Then, the dream ends. It becomes clear by the end what this dream really means to represent. As you have not experienced either death and haven't collected all the Fireflies, your thoughts and memories remain unorganized. You must go to someone else to unravel them, a therapist. In this dream, the Lovecraftian colossus who invades her mind and forces her to move up or down is a therapist who has begun to psychoanalyze her. They force her to move in spite of her fear of death and the void. They start asking questions about how she feels and instruct her to try organizing her thoughts in a more helpful way. From what I can tell, the Wozniak mentioned refers to an opera in which the main character, quote, filts through a world that he is unable to decipher, end quote, which very much is similar to our main character. Mendel probably refers to Gregor Mendel, the father of genetics, perhaps implying that the therapist, or perhaps we ourselves, have realized that the mental issues she suffers from were likely inherited from her parents, likely her father since he jumped off a building. The dream ends with the therapist asking her if she really understands, perhaps handing off the baton to her to wrestle with the ideas he had given her. Still, when she wakes up, she cries. Now on to Dream 4. Dream 4 is achieved by not experiencing the first or second death, but collecting all 5 fireflies. She stands in the front of a mirror and thinks to herself about her appearance. Ugh, another terrible morning. Boo, why is my face always so stupid? I wonder what the others at school will think. Well, it's not that I care too much, I just don't want to be branded a loser on my first day. Cheer up, there's nothing wrong with looking different. That's not what defines you after all. Hey, hurry up. Yes, Mom. This dialogue repeats, and it does so 9 times. On the second day, her eyes are mismatched. On the third day, her neck is twisted and super long. Fourth day, her face is gone, just a hole. Fifth day, her hair is super long and snake-like. Sixth day, a little clone sits beside her. Seventh day, her eyes droop down to her chest. Eighth day, she has 8 eyes. Ninth day, she is headless. 10th day, she has no face. However, this time she has something different to say. Good morning. I feel wonderful today. Can't wait for my first day at school. Hey, hurry up. Yes, Mom. On the 11th day, her reflection shows her back. No words are spoken, and the dream ends. This is by far the shortest and most straightforward dream, likely due to the fact that prior to sleeping, we actually managed to collect all of her thoughts. Her words suggest a deep insecurity about her physical appearance, but maybe more so than that, a deep fear of not fitting in at school, or in society in general. Interestingly, she says something different on the 10th day, a more positive morning. I would wager that she feels happy because she has no face at all, which could be symbolic for not having any personality. She feels that if she is a blank slate, a conformist, she will actually be able to fit in, maybe at the cost of her sense of self. But still, she will fit in. The dream also shows us a glimpse of her life before she got pulled from school. It seems that her life was quite normal. Perhaps there was always something a little bit wrong with her, but at least when she went to school, she wasn't so isolated and in her own head. This may be a bit of a stretch, but perhaps the final 11th day being her back is referencing the fact that she turned her back on all of this. She now is completely separate from this life that she had. It may have been stressful to worry about how others would perceive her, but it is better than the life she lives now. The dream is perhaps trying to tell her that she needs to confront the fact that she left school in some way. She needs to try to re-enter the world. Speaking of being in your own world though, our last dream is Dream 5. Dream 5 is achieved by not experiencing the first or second death and by picking up the phone, which is an item she doesn't really say much about when we pick it up. This dream follows 2 different conversations, one with her ordering a pizza and the other with herself. Hello, thank you for choosing our pizzeria. You know, this place is so empty, though I don't feel particularly good or bad because of it. I'm all alone, but at the same time it feels like I'm not. There's a lot of thoughts in my head. They always keep me entertained. I can create a whole world with them. I'm sure it'll be able to fill the void around me if I try hard enough. Although, no matter how much I think, my surroundings don't change. Yes, things happened in my head, but they never left its premises, and it's not like I tried to suppress them. Maybe they were afraid to come out? What kind of pizza would you like to order? Anyway, there's so much space in my head that could be put to good use, so every thought would make a senseless and merciless circle in my head, destined to go back to where it started. But there should be an end somewhere. You can't wander around forever. What do you think? I know it sounds scary, but it's not scarier than constantly existing amongst the void. This place is safe, and nothing bad will ever happen here. Nothing good happens here either, though. This continues a few more times, mostly repeating the same phrases. Please note that we have a special right now, 4 pizzas for the price of 2. I don't care that this place is empty, you hear? I feel neither good nor bad. I'm all alone. My head is full of thoughts. They eclipse the world around me. The space is pretty cramped, but at least it's safe, even though I'll never feel good here. Does that mean existing is a waste of time? I need to decide, and my thoughts will help me. They'll lead me to the exit, and I'll be able to feel proud of myself. I'll be able to save myself. At the same time, I don't really care anymore. This place is empty, but it makes me feel neither good nor bad. I'm alone, but my head is full of thoughts. A whole world, one might say. If I try hard enough, it'll be able to fill all the void around me. Still, no matter how much I keep thinking, my surroundings don't change. Yes, something happened outside of my head, but what was it? There's not enough space for my thoughts. It's already filled with something else. Even if there's nothing around me, I'm still here, and my head is full of thoughts. If I try hard enough, finally she stops. She looks up and sees a sign that has the empty set symbol. Session timeout. Please reload the page. This whole dream sequence is just a loop. She is trapped in an endless loop of thoughts over and over. She says the same things repeatedly, that she never feels good or bad in her head. But she still wrestles with the idea that she can't stay here in her head. In the end, she overwhelms herself, which reminds me of the quote by Alan Watts. A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts, so he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions. Now we have covered the entirety of the game. I will say, I certainly do not know if I interpreted things correctly, or if there even is supposed to be a right way to interpret things. The game offers an intimate look into the mind of an incredibly complex and flawed individual. Perhaps we are all supposed to relate to her in some ways. How you view her story is likely to be influenced by where you are in your story. I personally would describe myself as an optimistic person, so I would like to think that both of the Milk games are uplifting stories about overcoming your struggles and winning small victories for yourself. Especially the second game, I view it as a story of learning to confront your inner struggles, maybe not all at once, and probably not alone, but still working through them and learning slowly but surely to get better. You may never be quite, quote, normal, but if we can find a way to be happy with ourselves, that is really what matters. For now, I'll open it up to you in the comments. I'm interested to hear everyone's thoughts and interpretations of the game. This was quite a long project, the longest video I've made so far. If you enjoyed the format, feel free to let me know in the comments. If people seem to like the longer videos, I may find a way to sprinkle in these with regular uploads. Not every game can be talked about in 10 minutes, and there's certainly a lot of detail that can get lost. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who has supported the channel. A big thank you to my Patreons. If you would like to support the channel, the link to the Patreon is in the comments. I'm planning on making a Patreon exclusive video revisiting how fish is made soon. Next week for Valentine's Day, I'm also planning on covering Catherine, so stay tuned for that as well. Thank you, and see you next week.